through the day for us here in the European region. We just saw Pavel take a very, very good win over Psycho, and he's going to be moving on to the upper portion of the group to be facing Bunnyhoppor, who also had a pretty easy go of it, I'd say, Saul, in his first match of the day as well, winning 3-0 in a very quick fashion over Yarla. So both these players now, someone has to lose, and if the universe is correct, Bunnyhopper's probably going to lose because Pavel's just going to get there somehow by the looks of things. So we'll have to see. It's going to be a good one, though, because the winner of this one does go through to tomorrow, which means they're guaranteed a top 4 finish. But for Pavel specifically, he doesn't need a top 4 finish. He needs a top 1 finish. He needs to win the whole thing to be able to get into that Division A next week.
That was delivered in very Pavel fashion there as well. It's one of my favorite things about interviewing Pavel that he never says, he doesn't know the word first. He says top 1. Really
Yeah.
makes me happy. But yeah, I was a little bit shocked there at the start, just because you mentioned, yeah, we're about halfway through the day. I was like, wait, yeah, we are. Hang on, I'm not used to this in the Europe region. Like, we've been really having like the long drawn out series and the long drawn out days, but this one is absolutely flying by. And part of that is just the nature of the decks that are appearing. Druids, Murlocs, Shamans. Separate things. Druids, Murlocs, and Shamans are all very explosive and get on the board quickly and end games quickly. But also part of that is just like the nature of the series that we've seen, where they've just been real blowout series as well, just extremely one-sided. So I would like to see a couple of real competitive ones get into it. Maybe that's what we're going to see now with Bunny and Pub.
Yeah, I do enjoy the fact that you deem Paladin so bad it is now no longer the class. Murlocs is the class. It's just you went Druid, Murlocs, Shamans. It's like fair enough. Say how you really feel, Sol. But yeah, this is it.
That deck sucks.
There we go. It is interesting though overall how the weekend seems to be panning out across all regions. In that there are a lot of just blowout games, right? It doesn't seem like there's a lot of room for players to come back with these decks. It's very much my deck does this one thing. If I do it, great. If I can't, I lose. And that's just very. I don't know if that's a symptom of the classes, what cards are available in general, or just the deck building that has gone into the weekend being just fairly straightforward, at least in the majority. So I do wonder that, not that we particularly need another week of this, and we are going to be moving on to round robin and more of a standard conquest format as we move on through the round robin for the rest of the season. But if we had like an extra week or so, I would just be interested to just see the alternate timeline and just see what players even built and how they built it, because I think it would look very different to what we saw this week if they had a bit more time.
Yeah, for sure. You can see now bans are in for Pavel versus Bunnyhoppor, and don't worry, Raven. There is no mystery, no enigma to be solved in this one. Much more normal-looking ban strategy coming out. Pavel is being left with a Hunter as his fourth deck, whereas Bunny has the Mage, and this is a dynamic that we have seen a couple of times. And we have seen the direct matchup that Hunter has against Mage actually come into proceedings quite often. Just based on a small sample from yesterday. But I do want to reiterate, with you talking about lineup building just now, that's the part that I really do feel like Bunny has nailed, based on our testing that we put in before the fact, and also just having the opportunity, because casters always have it easy, right? We get to see all the lists that everyone submits and then judge what the brings were after the fact.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
we can kind of sit up on high and look down on everyone else. But I do think, based on all that information, that Bunny has got it pretty close to spot on in his lineup construction. And so I think maybe this might be a little bit of a tougher test for Pavel going into this series than the previous one was.
Yeah, I can see that. And also, as well, the question of how much we love Pavel, I feel like Bunnyhoppor is just sharper. Over the past few weeks, like Bunnyhoppor has been consistently playing. He has been, he did well last week as well. So maybe he's just sharper in general. Maybe Pavel does need these blowout games, or it might be a bit of a struggle. We'll see what happens as time goes on, of course. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. The Mage and the Hunter, I always prefer, obviously, to be on the Hunter side of this lineup. But I I think for me, one of the problems is if the Hunter being there makes the Druid in the other player's lineup a bit stronger, because I think Druid versus Hunter is pretty good for the Druid half the time. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm still not fully decided here. It's just tough to ignore the actual matchup of that fourth deck versus the other fourth deck.
Sorry, I don't know if you saw me laughing there, but Pavel is continuing, as far as I'm concerned, to troll me because I just looked over at my spectator client. They're playing their test game now, so they'll be starting in a little bit. And when you play a test game, you play with one of your banned classes, just to be very clear that it's a test game. It's not a real game. It doesn't count in the series. Guess which deck Pavel queued? The Rogue.
Of course. I feel like Pavel's just like not even playing Hearthstone right now. He's just like playing a different game that's above us all, and we just don't understand it as mere mortals. So we'll see how it pans out. But if he's going to struggle taking down someone, I do feel it is Bunnyhoppor. Bunnyhoppor is just so consistent across the board. You could probably count the misplays or even questionable plays on one hand that we've seen him make throughout his us casting his career at least. So he's so consistent. It might be a tough one to crack for Pavel here, I think.
Well, I'll take your point and be contrarian for the sake of it because that's what I do. I think part of why Bunnyhoppor is such a good player is that he understands that still, even at his level, every play he makes is questionable. And that's just kind of Hearthstone at a high level. If you think you're playing the game perfectly, you're probably bad at the game. But just because you don't understand how many decisions there are and things that could be done differently. I think the very best players are the ones who are very hyper aware of their own fallibility, which is where like someone like Hunter Ace, for example, who looks so mortified all the time about even like the most straightforward looking of turns, is because he understands there could always be something that he's missing that could throw away the game at any given point. And I really do think Bunnyhoppor is in that same bracket. I haven't quite settled on where I think on like best players in the world right now because the GM season isn't really underway. There's not a big pile of like Masters Tour data piling up along outside of like Blizers. Like who else is on a record similar to him right now? But I know like last year, for example, I had Bunnyhoppor and Hunter Ace as my two best players in the world. And then if you ask Bunnyhoppor about it, he would also add Zhao from China into that list as well. So those, are players that I really, really do hold on an incredibly high tier.
Yeah, and just going off your point, which I think is a very good one in terms of basically how the good players have just constant self-improvement in mind, it's the difference between, say, an average player losing a match and going, I need to go through this match to see what I did wrong because I lost, to the good players who will 3-0 a match and go, I need to go through this match to see the things I did wrong. And there's a big difference there because, again, I think Hunter Ace was the first one that came to my mind when you were talking about it, is he will literally win a match in very impressive fashion, walk off and go, I think I messed up that turn. It's like,
I'm so trash,
what?
guys.
Yeah. He'll just say, I think there was this turn I messed up. I could have done this better. I could have done this better. And that really is the mindset you need to be the best. Because you can't just be like, I won, great, who cares, next game. Being able to analyze every turn and every way you can improve is how you get to the level some of these players are at. But we are ready now. I believe Pavel was just continuing to trolls and stalled us just a tiny bit. But we are ready to go into game number one. It's going to be the Hunter versus Bunnyhoppor's Paladin.
Bunnyhoppor there looking to make a quick entry into the T-SIP tier list. Came in at a very solid mid-tier there. Very nice entry.
Yeah, expected from Bunnyhoppor as well. Just very controlled, not too crazy either way. Just the correct amount of sippage.
There's no way this catches on, does there? We should probably just give up. Yeah.
Hey, look, you started it, so I'm just doing it because I'm a good friend and co-caster.
Yeah.
Most importantly, Stormhammer plus Dragon equals good for Pavel's opening hand. Although, maybe you could argue it's one of the matchups where you would rather have a Desert Spear because of the nature of the way Bunnyhoppor and Highlander Paladin is built. There's a lot of just awkward little minions to deal with, especially with the Murloc effect too.
Yeah, could definitely see that argument.
Hey, I got you, friend.
Love this beaming sidekick on one with the curve that Bunnyhoppor has. It means now if Pavel does want to go like Coin Fairy Dragon or something super aggressive like that, well, guess what? Boom, Hand of a Doll.
Pavel could coin out this Imprisoned Felmore and actually just get it locked in swinging a little bit earlier. He still has the Fairy Dragon for turn 2, and then can just lock in the Stormhammer. Does it look like it's gonna... Was that the Fairy Dragon? Yeah, it was. Okay. Wants the more immediate board impact, but as you said, it can be answered here. Is it... I guess Hand of a Doll is fine, right? I was wondering whether he needs to kill this early when his curve looks pretty good anyway, if he could just get the extra minion on board, but I guess he ends up value trading regardless, so it's fine to me.
Yeah, it's so strong. I mean, if you just play the minion there, then Pavel does the opposite, right? Pavel takes the value trade, and then you're the one in the bad spot, having just like thrown away a minion, essentially.
I actually quite like getting the minions down this turn, because something that Hunter does struggle with outside of it, a very specific Unleash the Hounds, is dealing with a very early wide board, especially when they've been pushed off with this, with the Fairy Dragon being removed so efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing to really swing the weapon into, right? And do you really want to equip weapon and either swing face or not swing? I think I'd rather have the minions on board here.
I agree. More so than that, you just don't even know which weapon is going to be appropriate here, right?
Yeah.
Like you might just not even want to use the angling rod and just skip all the way to True Silver for now. Also gives Bunny now the opportunity to just completely flood this board with pretty innocuous targets for the Imprisoned Falmor. Innocuous targets for the Stormhammer as well on top of that.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out whether Angling Rod +1
Let me think.
Sand Wasp, there we go, is actually better than 2 Sand Wasps and a 1/1. I'm not quite getting there. I'm not sure. Okay, so Bunnyhoppor's going to roll the Murloc first, see what he gets. But what this does is just, it spends the mana in a way that you could actually just consecrate follow-up as well if you really wanted to. And maybe still have some mana to do something else, like drop a second Sand Wasp, and so on. Because it is very likely with that board that the Falmor is killable with a consecrate.
Cold Light Seer was honestly a pretty good pickup off the weapon swing. I think I'd rather see Bunny just keep developing here. I think he's way ahead on tempo and initiative. I think he gets to be the beatdown in this position as opposed to having to worry about anything that Pavel's really doing.
The consecrate makes him have to have a dragon to keep the weapon though, right?
Sure.
I think I like consecrate swing to kill the evasive, and then you can just play a 1-drop. I think that's still pretty good.
It's a compelling argument.
He's only weak to Unleash the Hounds, really, and if there's Unleash the Hounds comes down, he knows there's no 2-mana dragon to make the weapon, so the weapon's definitely not being swung for value that turn as well.
Mm-hmm.
Move quickly.
So with this play, he is going to go wide. Just take out... Oh, okay.
Certainly looks that way.
Who are we hitting today?
Just so much pressure with the Cold Light Seer and the Brazen Zealot.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, this turn is still good. It's just the consecrate just lined up quite nicely there.
It did. I was listening to your argument. I was unconvinced, but I was also not ridiculing, which is a very nice middle ground for you to be in, Raven.
Would you call it an argument still? Argument has quite negative connotations, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that's not my fault, you know? Like, the word is still appropriate, it's just people think of an argument as a bad thing. You still just present an argument for a point. There's no emotional connection to it.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you don't have many emotional connections to many things as a robot,
Wow! Wow! Alright,
argue that.
Yeah, one good Raven burn. Okay, chalk it up. Big stretch!
Yep, I'm done.
Yeah.
Regardless of that, the preemptive board building from Bunnyhoppor is played out pretty well, as he has a lot of wiggle room to work with here. Does have this Waste Warden that can just kill off this Tolvir as well? Or
Yeah,
is
this Consecrate just got nutty though, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, is that any better than actually just going Consecrate for the kill? Let's go.
Get out of my game, says Bunnyhoppor.
Small part of me that still thinks Pavel could win this game. Not because of his Hunter. or anything like that. It's just because it's Pavel.
Yeah.
He's looking rough though, in all seriousness, and that is not the card he needs. I don't even know if there was anything realistically that was going to play out for him there to stop that. If he had 10 mana, Deathwing would have been nice, but still not good enough. And Bunnyhoppor, he parted that very, very well, just putting on enough pressure, enough board presence, the removal at the right time, and of course the way the game panned out, that Consecrate just sealed the deal for that one.
Yeah, absolutely insane pressure from Bunnyhoppor. It's very rare that you come up against a hunter like that and you get to be that solid of an aggressor in the matchup. But really, it was the decision to just, keep his Beaming Psychic and just play it on one and then curve into Hand of Adal. Like, that's why, I think Gia on her show Mull It Over, which is about mulligan decisions and early game decisions, like, she has more work to do this week than anyone else, and more work than she's had to do in any other week, because when it's Murloc Paladin against Totem Shaman, or Murloc Paladin against Evolve Shaman, or, aggressive Hunter versus Murloc Paladin, or whatever else, that, like, the decision points are so hyper condensed into, like, turns 1 and 3 in terms of, like, what impacts the game heavily, that I think, her video, I'm setting it up now, and so hopefully she can live up to the hype.
No pressure.
Yeah, I think her video will be a really good watch this week.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting overall where it's one of the few circumstances where you see Stormhammer not the best weapon in the Hunter list. At that point, if there was a Desert Spear draw, that could have looked very, very different, as Desert Spear not only is good the turn you play it, but it effectively fights for the board for 3 turns straight in a matchup like that, which is an insane amount of value. And it is just the difference where normally, if you could force yourself to have one weapon in every Hunter game you queue, it would be the Stormhammer. But in these specific matchups, especially against Shaman and the certain Paladins we've been seeing, Desert Spear probably just gets more work done, and it would have opened up that game for Pavel.
Yeah, I mean, he would have absolutely annihilated that Samwas Queen and all the tokens that came out of it. The Murlocs would have been a different story because, Bunny got to, like, immediately Cold Light Seer them, but Pavel would have found himself significantly less far behind on board. And then maybe that trickles through to, on that term where I was saying, like, when you were talking about the Consecration, I was saying, well, Bunny should feel like he's the aggressor here because he's so far ahead. Maybe if he hasn't had as many minions stick, he doesn't feel that way on that turn. Right. He has to play a bit more passively, and then Pavel can find his way back into it.
Yeah, well, I think we are getting ready to go into the next game. Bunnyhoppor taking a win with that Paladin means it is gone from his selection choice. He can select from Shaman, Druid, or Mage, as you can see, but he only needs to win with 3 of the different classes, not all 4. So you have a class that you don't necessarily, have to play at all, or if you play it and lose with it, you could just not queue it again if you don't feel like it in the series. So a lot of flexibility in these 4 decks instead of the usual 3 we are used to seeing with 1 ban on the end. But we are going to go into game number 2. Bunnyhoppor on the Shaman and Pavel on the Shaman, but Pavel on this Totem and Bunnyhoppor going for more of this Evolve style. I know you prefer the Evolve style, Sottle, but what do you like in this matchup itself?
It's hard. I will say that much. Myself and Derek did practice this matchup specifically, and I had to kind of adjust how I was mulliganing from the Evolve Shaman side a couple of times, because I was playing a list which had Stormforged Axe. I think it was Psycho's list in particular. Mm-hmm. And I felt like, if I just have Stormforged Axe, I'm just winning. Like, I can just kill so many totems, they never get to stick anything. But then, Manatide Totem and Totemic Might being put on a totem immediately, as we saw from Pavel in the previous series, I started to mess with that a lot. So instead I started looking for combinations of 3 or 4 damage in hand. So like Invocation of Frost plus Orc Merchant, or Stormforged Axe plus Orc Merchant. Those kind of things to be able to deal with a much bigger range of totems. I think as long as you get a fairly reactive opening hand, you tend to do okay. And on top of that, if you're playing Blazing Battle Mage, mulligan for that card, because Blazing Battle Mage just beats this entire deck on its own if it's played on turn 1.
Yeah, I got a little bit of bad news for you, Sottle, in terms of Bunnyhoppor's version. He is playing Blazing Battle Mage, and he is playing a Hungry Crab, not bad, but he isn't running any of the other stuff, right? There's no Stormforged Axe, there isn't any of the Orc Merchants for the extra ping of damage that you often need / want, so he is a little bit more limited. It's a much more overall consistent deck list, but maybe not quite the answers to exactly this Totem Shaman. And Pavel, on the other hand, he's got his choice of totems, he's got the reflection, but for me, the tough part of this deck is really knowing your limits in terms of when you execute these cards.
Yeah, so in my experience, Pavel should be coining Manatide Totem with this set.
Because it
He
does.
says, as Pavel does exactly the opposite. But yeah, Manatide Totem requires combinations of cards to deal with from off the board. Whereas Bunny here, just, straight up Invocation of Frost, job done.
It also doesn't really leave him with a guaranteed good turn 2 either. Yep. Pavel, can't do it again, mate. Can't just just start rolling a little bit too early. Is this like he could help him out? Does have the lightning bolt if he really wants to get rid of him. That's actually super annoying for Pavel because it's a minion that won't necessarily ever die, which is frustrating because this deck can go very wide very quickly, and you really want the specific minions you're duplicating, right? You don't want, well, oh, my 7th minion is a 4/5 that can't attack.
Yeah, that is true. Desert Hair mutate? Question mark.
Do you think he can ever just get away with the Farsight this turn because he kills off the 1/1?
I really don't, because again, it's Manatide turn, right? Like, unless you find an answer off the Farsight, you just don't have an answer to that minion coming down, and then the pop-off begins. It is also Serpent Shrine Portal turn, which you might just play into directly with the Desert Hair. You choose to go with the Mutate as well. But I think that outcome is significantly less bad for you than just landing a Manatide Totem.
I think I like the pass mutate, honestly, and that's even with no Serpent Shrine Portal in sight, if I tried to block down my mind. I think I like this because there just aren't many things you can do versus this, and sometimes you get the Mogu off.
Okay. Ugh. It's looking fairly yikesy for Bunnyhoppor.
Yep, the hero power does not unlock Mogu as it costs him 2 mana and only reduce him by 1. So it looks like a Farsight to me, and then reassess once you've drawn that card.
Okay, it's immediate value off the Bogspine Knuckles next turn. He might even just need it now.
Do you think it comes down with the mutate or not?
Possibly.
It's a 5-drop.
Yeah, I think if you're going to mutate, you're still going to do it on a bunny, though. It's just more of an upgrade, I would imagine.
Okay.
I see a dark future.
Oh, okay, now it definitely comes down. Get out! Bunny, this is your day, mate. Like, go out and buy a lottery ticket.
He is playing a deck with bunnies in it, to be fair, so...
That is true.
If there's every deck he's going to do well with, I should hope it's this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this might snowball out of control. Suddenly he doesn't even need to evolve this Mogu to make it good.
Nope. He definitely doesn't want to be swinging Bogspine Knuckles anytime soon, though, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's still fine, though, right? He could just use Evocation and Mogu this turn. Looks fantastic.
Curve into Kronks, curve into Galakrons, beat him up.
Like, how does Pavel even kill the Amet? Never mind the board Bunnyhoppor's going to make.
Yeah.
You would need to Lava Burst Lightning Bolt, then he's overloaded, and then dead. So, I think this is already just snowballed out of control.
I wonder.
Just all his invoke cards just summon 2/7 rushes. Like, what?
It's a pretty good card, isn't it?
What is happening?
Oh, what's that? A 1-mana 3/7 rush? Seems good.
I know Galakron Shaman used to be broken. I didn't realize it was this broken. Jeez.
You are victorious.
Wow.
That sounds about right.
And that concede might, on the surface, look a little bit silly, as there wasn't that much damage represented, but as we mentioned, Pavel could not win. Like, there are cards that do not exist in his deck that could deal with that board and actually win, so even though it looked a little bit early in a general game own, I have no qualms about Pavel conceding there, because it was just a matter of time. There wasn't even outs, were there? There's just no outs once you've lost the board that hard. It's crazy.
In reality, that concede was one turn too late. Like as soon as I saw Ahmet into Dread Corsair, I would have been alt F4ing the client out the door on my one trip outside that I'm allowed for the day. Yeah, and then back inside and back to playing more Hearthstone because what else are we doing at the moment?
Yep.
But yeah, that was a pretty disgusting game of Hearthstone overall, and it was honestly pretty similar to Bunnyhoppor's last game with Evolved Shaman, which was also a pretty disgusting game of Hearthstone.
Yeah, and the strange thing, at least just for today so far, is there are bad Evolve outcomes, right? There are bad things that can happen. They just don't happen to Bunnyhoppor by the looks of things, because that has looked very, very strong indeed. And now Pavel is on the back foot. Just to mention, though, and just to remind you guys, if Pavel loses, he's not out of this yet. He'll go down to the lower bracket, which means he still has a chance. He doesn't have to get to first place in a fancy fashion and lose in the least matches. He just has to get there. So because this is upper bracket, if he loses, he'll go into lower, and then he needs to win that one.
Yeah, and same goes for Psycho as well, who of course lost in the previous series to Pavel. He is really, really looking for a top 2. He's also looking for Pavel to do badly to increase his chances of making it into Division A. But again, he is still in with a chance because top 8 is not good enough for him. Top 8 is not good enough for Pavel. They need to keep on going. But if Pavel were to lose this, and like Psycho, neither of them are out of proceedings. They still have the lower bracket available for them to fight through.
Yep, and Bunnyhoppor does have his Druid or his Mage. I've got a funny feeling he wants to lock in Mage. He does have, again, just some tech cards. The Ancient Mysteries with the Flame Ward is there in Bunnyhoppor's list. He has an Acidic Swampoos as well, the Rustied Raider, the Waste Warden. I did look it in. I didn't even know that, guys. That was just a general I thought he was going to. So he is running, again, just kind of the outcome of Bunnyhoppor's lineup is just a few good tech cards in there to get the job done. So I don't mind him doing this, even though he knows that Pavel has Hunter available.
And a pretty good looking opener for Bunny as well. Doomsayer plus Reno.
Keeping the box on, just for that turn 6 outcome.
Oh, you know me so well. The actual debate, I think, is about the Rolling Fireball, honestly. I think that's a reasonable keep.
I think with Bunny's list, he can throw it because he has Doomsayer and Reno.
So one of the reasons why I like Rolling Fireball against Hunter is that they have these minions, the Evasive Feywing, Fairy Dragon, and so on, which, sometimes you can actually kill them with that as a removal spell, whereas you couldn't kill them with, just about any other card in your deck. And it's often those cards that really do put a pretty serious beat down on the mage, because they're so resistant to Ray of Frost and all of those other things that mages use to buy time.
Yeah, my thoughts with that is the Doomsayer probably plugs the gap over the Fairy Dragon early on, at least, and then the Reno deals with the Feywing. But I also say having 2 goes instead of 1 at getting the Ooze or the Zephyrus as an answer to an early weapon, i.e. Stormhammer, from Hunter is a huge deal. The difference in win rate must be insane of Mage removing a Stormhammer on curve versus not, because it is the one card that can just solo the Mage a lot of the time. Early Zephyrus here from Pavel, going for the Animal Companion, which I do like in this matchup. Not really one you want to ramp or do anything too fancy with. You just want more stuff to throw at the mage until they die.
So, if Bunny Doomsayers and if Pavel has taken Animal Companion there from Bunnyhoppor's perspective, then of course it is just a straight up 1 in 3 for the Doomsayer to bite the dust. Whether or not Pavel would be a dreamer and go for that in his position is you can decide for yourself. But I do like the curve when it goes off. Doomsayer into Twilight Drake, or Doomsayer into AI even, but like Doomsayer into Twilight Drake into Solarian plus question mark on a following turn.
I do like Doomsayer here though. There are very few bad outcomes for this. And if Pavel rips the Animal Companion, as he said, sometimes it happens, but you still didn't take any damage. And sometimes, well, a lot of the time, he fails. And that's insane. Doomsayer's just killed 2 cards. Just going to go for the more steady Desert Spear. And Bunnyhoppor probably quite happy to see that that's a Desert Spear and not Stormhammer, as the opposite of what I said in the Hunter vs. Paladin matchup, you really want the Stormhammer in this one.
So I am interested in the curve now. It's card draw, which is relevant because he has Dragoncaster in hand, with a dragon to activate it. So drawing cards for the scam spell is very justifiable. He can also just play small minion this turn to try and land a bit of tempo. That got less appealing because Pavel played Desert Spear here, which just kind of locks out 3-2 straight up. Or he can just go big minion, which is coining out the Twilight Drake. But at that point, you're further away from your Reno because of the coin. You're also deactivating your Dragoncaster by playing the only dragon that you have in hand currently. So there is like a lot of pros and cons to each of the, I think, 3 justifiable plays this turn for Bunny.
I like the Arcane Intellect one because you save coin for not only Reno but also for Dragoncaster. Depending on what you got available to you. Also, because of the Desert Spear, you would rather him not swing it into a minion because that's where Desert Spear excels. I think if we saw the Stormhammer come down, it's much more likely to see the Twilight Drake because the Stormhammer just doesn't work that well versus it, and you make Pavel kind of have to have a dragon to make it valuable.
Well,
yep, he's getting hurt a little bit by this Huffer though. It's a good roll from Pavel there. Is it coin time? And not for any of the things we discussed.
Well, if he coins now, he no longer has access to the Giga Scam next turn.
But he does kill a Huffer and a 1/1.
He does kill a Huffer.
And he puts a 3/3 on board that is actually pretty solid. It would have to be like hero-powered swing, use the 1/1 or something, to kill it off. So I think I like this. This creates an awkward turn for Pavel.
Always hits her mark.
And he has, even worse case, he has the Rusted Raider, right? So he doesn't...
Yep.
He can fill the gap he sort of created by using the coin now.
A Mana Saber is a pretty clutch draw here. Don't think Pavel should be boom pistoling this turn. Because as we've talked about before, you really want to boom pistol into their turn 6 and beyond. Pavel is just going to play it right now. Okay.
Doesn't want that Rusted Raider coming down. Wait, is it a Battlecry?
It is a Battlecry.
I thought it was, yeah, okay. I just wanted to, it's not a card I play with when I played Mage, so I'm not hyper used to it. So, yeah, I was just double checking. Oh, Rare Frost, bit of a saving grace actually here.
Yep. I would suggest that Bunnyhoppor plays his playable cards this turn.
Yeah. Not all of them.
No. 1.5 of them.
I will crush your delusions of grandeur.
And then pinging the minion can actually end up being pretty important here. Just for Reno breakpoints on the following turn. Because, for example, say like another 5 health minion comes down here and then Pavel swings the weapon, then suddenly 1 away. You have to have a way to deal with the 3-2 in that world as well, I guess.
I do feel in Mage there is it's got to be a very good reason to ping the face over minions, even just in general, right? Almost regardless of the minions health most of the time, right? Because it is just way more valuable to interact with the board, just because of the way the hero power works and the way the Mage decks are built right now. But there is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that 12?
It is 12.
Well,
it's a very sketchy 12 as well, because I think like 5-1 and 3-1 is actually a very common outcome of the way this breaks down, being left alive.
Reno only adds up to 10, but a box can add up to infinity.
Yeah, so I think it is just a box.
With the way Bunny's been playing and the way the outcomes have been going out for him with his Evolved Shaman, this is probably the safest box you've ever seen cast. Hey!
Oh!
Bunnyhoppor sits up. He's like, oh, okay.
That gets Bunnyhoppor Ray of Frost mana here as well, which is huge.
Oh.
Okay. Okay.
Ramp!
Okay.
Can't
execute your own minions. Shout outs to Artosis, so that one was always going. Oh! Okay.
Okay, I still think a good outcome overall for Bunnyhoppor. He threw his Reno, but with this ramp, and also with the cards he has in hand, does he need Reno right now?
No. He probably doesn't need 2 Renos at this point.
Right. The only big interaction you really see a lot, and why the other Reno would be good is just the Alexstrasza from your opponent Dragon board into your Reno.
Sure. And I think now that Pavel has seen Amazing Reno bite the dust, he should probably be looking to just leave this Mana Saber stealth and try and get the ramp out of it next turn to go into Dragon Queen.
Yep. It's what, especially if he doesn't put a minion on board that's targetable, is it only Blizzard that deals with this Mana Saber? Because you can't.
Reno.
Oh, and Reno, sure,
Reno.
yeah. I was saying, yeah, he can't roll in Fireball, obviously, because you can't target stealth, and that dormant minion, for realistic purposes, doesn't exist on the board right now.
You could, like, wrinkly brain a Frost Nova in Bunnyhoppor's position here as well. Like, I think that would be a pretty justifiable line from him if he had it as well. He could, like, develop pressure plus Frost Nova.
Right.
Come to my aid.
Wow. So the threat of Siamak counteracts the threat of Alexstrasza sometimes.
Yes.
As this
Absolutely.
is effectively a lethal setup. Obviously, this depends on what comes out from Alexstrasza, but the key thing to think here is, does Pavel have a choice? And I want to say no.
He went face with the attack?
Yeah, why not? He either gets Nazari or a crazy dragon, or he doesn't.
Like, Twin Tyrant, maybe? Is that ever relevant? No, not really.
So did you want him
Nest
to...
Drake?
Did you want him to peel... Yeah, see, that's the problem, right? Did you want him to peel the shield? Do you want him to ping a 1-1?
I wanted him to hit a 1-1. That was my instincts. Just because there are a lot of dragons that, like, kill some stuff, but not all the stuff, right? So I think he increases his chances of dealing with the 6-6 if he kills a 1-1. He's just not doing it. Fine. If you're not doing it, then you definitely go face. That just makes sense.
And to be fair, it's not like he now needs extra mana most of the time, right? Like, the face attack, if he'd saved it, would have opened up a hero power with Alexstrasza next turn, but he would have missed 3 damage, so doesn't matter.
Zephyrus 1 off here? Bloodlust is still max damage, right? Adds 9 plus the ping.
I believe so. What about trade Zephyrus? What about trade Mana Saber? Trade Zephyrus Arcane Explosion?
You just Reno, right? Pretty sure you just Reno.
Sure. I guess the overall point is, if you push Hunter off the board, you're going to win the game. So as long as you do that right now, Bunnyhoppor's going to be looking fantastic, and Zephyrus obviously the more flexible choice to keep in hand. Honestly, I had Reno's been discarded this game and pushed it a little bit too much into my mind. oh, okay.
Straight to the dome.
Pavel definitely got no choice now.
Oh! Oh my goodness!
Well, this could get interesting.
There's no way. Not even Pavel is this much of a god, right?
Never count him out, Sottle. I cannot believe you even just muttered those words.
Okay. Alright, good point.
I wonder.
Press the button.
Deathwing, Mad Aspect, Battle Cry, attack all faces. Unfortunately, doesn't quite work like that.
He has to, right? There's no... I mean, okay, he's not technically dead on board, but...
He's not technically
he's
dead.
one off, and are you really thinking you're going to win the game being one off? Especially...
I mean, if Bunny doesn't have the damage, he has to trade.
But the problem is, if he doesn't play Deathwing, he plays a 3-2. Like, I don't know, it seems too weak to me. I think he has to rip it and hope.
But the thing is like, even if this goes really well for him, Bunny still just has a 6-6 Divine Shield Wind Fury next. What?
But it can't attack! I told you! Do not count Pavel out!
Oh my goodness.
And the Siamak can't attack yet.
Fine.
I mean, it's still looking good for Bunnyhoppor because he has a Ray of Frost and he has Zephyrus, right? And he even has his Ancient Mysteries, which... Wait, he's not played Ice Barrier this game, right? That was his last...
Let me just check real quick. No, he hasn't.
So he has Ice Barrier or Flame Ward he could get. Obviously, he would want Ice Barrier. Mm-hmm. But most importantly, he can Ray of Frost this Alexstrasza to dramatically reduce the damage.
Yep.
Pavel rips the Deathwing. Alexstrasza doesn't even look. Just gonna have a brew while Deathwing deals with the board.
What to do?
What a day!
Yeah, he can kill off the dragon. Really wants to kill, well, the dragon. You know what I mean? The
Fairy dragon.
Fairy dragon. Yeah. And this is a setup for Pyroblast, and there is no way for Pavel to heal.
Alright, yep, seems pretty smooth.
Yeah, looks like Bunnyhoppor, although everything looked a bit dicey for a second with that Deathwing. Bunnyhoppor puts Pavel in checkmate with that one, especially with the Alexstrasza being gone. No chance of an Azari. And he's going to take the series 3-0. Is Bunnyhoppor just 6-0 today?
Might be, yeah. I'm not sure if
3-0 his previous series, right?
I'm not sure if the first series was 3-0 or 3-1. I just remember it being very, very fast. But yeah, he's certainly putting in a very dominant performance. And he's certainly kind of getting the run of the cards here as well. He's had extremely good evolve outcomes. He's had some pretty good puzzle boxes on top of that as well. But of course, that's not to take anything away from the way he's playing the game, because there was a lot of very important sequences in all of those Shaman games and that Mage game that were very much in his control. I think he handled everything very, very nicely. And in fact, it was Pavel at the end who had to kind of just let Deathwing take the wheel. Almost found a way to scam his way back into it, but because of the Ray of Frost, there was just still no win condition really available to him.
It was an incredible Deathwing, though, let's be honest. If Pavel's going to lose a series, he still entertained us, because that Deathwing was actually perfect. Didn't touch the Alexstrasza at all, and it set him up for a potential way to win the game, but it wasn't enough. Bunnyhoppor does move on. His day is done, and he'll be here tomorrow playing in the top 4, whereas Pavel is in the lower bracket, and he's going to face